Summer is upon us. It's searing heat I actively try to avoid by staying in the glorious indoors, where I remain cozy under this weighted blanket. If you're anything like me, 24, ran away from LA to live with parents during the pandemic, and now too comfortable with the hermit lifestyle to ever want to go back, I'm convinced I can still have a hot girl summer. How? Well, I watched a few of these DIY corset videos. They exude the perfect amount of sexy yet powerful energy. Though I haven't gone on a date in the past 2.5 years, I feel like this corset is the answer to my utterly dry spell. The only problem is that I've never really used a sewing machine to this extent before, like basically making a whole top from scratch. So you already know it's gonna be an adventure. But anyway, I went to Goodwill and thrifted these tops and got to work. And I actually found two of the same shirt, coincidentally. I really like the metallic sheen going on here. So it is a Sunday night, I have work tomorrow. We're just gonna go for it. Let's get the patterns out. Using the pattern from Nava Rose's corset video, I traced and cut out all of the shapes. I made the back flaps a little longer because I wanted to add a zipper and also wanted to make sure the sizing actually fit me. What we're trying to do is have the green be on the front and the black to be on the inside, so we need 2 sets of these patterns. I spent about 10 solid minutes struggling to thread the machine and contemplated how anyone came up with such a complicated death trap, but after getting into the rhythm of it, it actually started to look like an article of clothing. After putting together the 2 separate front and back portions, it was time to attach them together by sewing the perimeter. Just as I was flipping it inside out, or outside in, whatever, you know what I mean. The metallic sheen of the material glimmered, nearly blinding my eyes, and a realization flashed before me. I need sleeves. This was starting to remind me of a suit of armor that Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones would wear, and it just felt right to add shoulder caps. I went back to the drawing board and picked out a crop top with sleeves that I liked and traced the general shape on the scraps of fabric that I had left. There was definitely a moment where I thought I wouldn't have enough material, which almost made me cry amidst the delirium I was experiencing since it was almost midnight and remembered I had work the next day. The woes of working a 9 to 5 that's actually an 8 to 8. I undid the straps and attached each shoulder flap to its corresponding color. I honestly don't know how to explain this part because I was so confused as I was doing it, and this half-assed attitude definitely bit me in the whole butt later. We'll get to that when we get to it. I flipped it again, inside out, inside, outside, in, whatever. Then ironed the whole thing down to flatten all the bits and bobs, and holy moly, the amount of validation I felt when I saw how much closer I was getting to my vision was astronomical. Oh, who, me? Just your fellow neighborhood seamstress is all. No need for applause, everyone. I mean it gets pretty bad pretty quickly. To give the bodice a little more structure, it's recommended to top stitch around the perimeter. At this point, I'd try on the piece to figure out where along the straps I need to stitch onto the back part, but that's when I realized how uneven the sleeves looked and I was devastated. Let me tell you, I was on Geniusville this whole time and was humbly punted back to my shit show corner. But at this point, I don't think my consciousness existed beyond the aggressive thudding of the sewing machine, so I entered a zen state and proceeded. Now it was time to do the fun part of the corset that actually feels like making a corset, the boning. I took the zip ties and placed them where I want them and marked them. Then I go ahead and top stitch the sections to make them into channels where the zip ties slip in. Cut and file down the zip ties, and wow, look at that! This is basically a corset. Choosing to make this a zipped corset instead of one with grommets was definitely a bold idea. A reminder that this is the first time I've ever sewn anything of substance with a sewing machine, so for my big head to assume that this would be a walk in the park, again, bold. But I managed to figure it out in my usual messy, half-assed way. I had to redo it a few times, but when it finally turned out, the final product felt so close, but so far because the hemming literally took a whole extra night to figure out. I'm already losing my mind from my day job, so to then go into figuring out how to add a hem to these janky edges was literally a headache. For one, I didn't think and got the tiniest freaking hem tape that I could find, so trying to sew this onto fraying fabric was just not good at all. After at least a couple hours of trial and error, my sister suggested that I stack the ribbon onto itself and stitch along one end to create the nice tucked away seam that I was looking for this whole time. I flipped it inside out, ironed it flat, then hand stitched the motherfucker since the sewing machine was causing me so much stress. And voila! I was so shook when I finally completed this corset, and all I wanted to do was finally try it on in its full glory, but I realized the zipper I got was a closed bottom one. Okay, so maybe this isn't working out. Like, can you help? How am I supposed to get out of this? I mean, with enough force, I'm able to shove myself into the corset, so you know what, I'm just gonna deal with it. But finally, I have a corset in my closet to fulfill my hot girl summer dreams. Despite all the ups and downs and imperfections, I'm still super surprised at how well it turned out. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. I try to make videos every week. Try is the key word here, and I'll see you next time.